So hey, this is Ty the Art Guy, and I'm going to do a quick little watercolor demo of a semi-caricature slash portrait of a couple. It's their anniversary coming up, and I just wanted to do this little gift for them. So this is double timed. As you can see, I'm not really that fast, no matter how much tea I drink. We're just kind of going through this. I did the inking. Now I'm going to start throwing a little watercolor down. I'm going to put some water on the paper first, and then if I could ever get myself together, there we go. Pretend like I know what I'm doing. Yes, perfect. Gonna put a little watercolor wash down. This is clear water. I'm just setting up for that watercolor effect that you guys all know. So there's that, and this is going to take a while, so enjoy. I'm going to lay down a little cadmium yellow. There might be a little yellow ochre in there. They're kind of close to my small palette. That's my small urban sketch palette. They're off to the right. And here we go. So it's going to do a little forest background. I had a reference photo to go from. And I will come back to you when I have something else I need to say. Enjoy the demonstration. Thank you for your interest. Oh, that's a little light green, and I'm going to do a little sap green, and there'll probably be some viridian in this at some point, just so you know. Okay, so this is the viridian I mentioned earlier. I'm trying to get a blurred background look of this forest. The viridian gives some depth, some darkness, some coolness. I used some warm greens I get to start off, and I had that yellow background in there to kind of give it a warm light. Watercolor, you go light to dark. The viridian's a dark green. We'll get a little darker, some blues and some siennas later in this, you'll see. I'm probably a little crazy for using that 1-inch brush, but I really like using a big brush. You can cover a lot of space really fast, and it does very well for me. Now I switched over to a smaller, I think that's probably like a number 4. And this is some sienna, and the water is still wet on the paper, so it's going to give that blurred effect that I like. We're trying to focus on the lovebirds and the couple first, and the background second is the idea. So I'm putting a little burnt umber in now with my tree trunks, and I'm also going to do some forest shadowing with, I believe that might be some ultramarine mixed with Payne's Gray. And we will continue doing this, and I'll come back to you when I feel like there's something else to say. Thank you. Enjoy this. Alright, so now you see that I'm doing a little bit of skin tone on her. The lady is always first. She's the most important part of the drawing. Guys are just eye candy. It's the women that really matter. So here we are. Look at the way she's looking at him. Isn't that just lovely? So I'm going to do, my flesh tones are basically, I'm taking a cadmium orange and a little, I believe that might be Indian red, but I'm watering it down a lot. And then I'll get some rosy cheeks and stuff coming up with some cadmium red and some alizarin. Alizarin crimson is a little colder of a red, not as warm and hot as a cadmium red. I like it. It gets good skin tones. A happy accident happens in here at some point. I will show you. You'll see along her neck. The water was still pretty wet, and a little bit of that green got in there, but you know, green makes a fantastic shadow on flesh tones. So being in the forest, I think that reflected pretty well. At first I fought it a little bit, but as you see, I'm just kind of, well, let's go with it and see what happens. It's a happy accident, all in the name of Bob Ross. We let it go. So enjoy this. I will do her, and then once I get her done, I will start working on him. Like I said, the ladies are always first, and then the gentleman falls up. We are always in the background, guys, even though he looks like he's a little more in the foreground in this photo. Enjoy. I'm having more fun than y'all are, I believe. Thanks. her hair color, I have to mention, is a burnt umber with the little Payne's gray and a slight amount of ultramarine. I like to throw the little ultramarine blue in there to kind of cool it down a little bit from the warmer browns, and just want to make that note as we go into her hair color and such. So I'll let you guys watch again. Sorry, I'll back off. Alright, so now we're going to start on the gentleman. Same thing with the flesh tones. I'm using a little cadmium orange and not as much of the Indian red on him as usual. You'll see as I go along in here, I'm going to use a little violet for some skin tone and some shading. Like the greens, violets and blues also make good shadow effects for flesh tone. You just water it down, you slide it on. The reference photo showed him with quite the camping facial hair, 3 days beard sort of thing. So he's going to have a little more shadowing on his face. Like I said, guys are the comic relief of all couples. So they're always a little funnier. They might be a little more exaggerated in color for me. And that's kind of how we work him up. I think we did nice on her. I think you might have saw a few times I was lifting the color off the flesh tone a little bit. I like doing that. When you lift off the color, you can do that in watercolor. This is a 140-pound paper. You can't overwork it too much, but you can pull color off. You wet it and just clean it off with a dry brush. You wet the area you want to pull the paint out, and then you dry the brush and put it on there, and it'll pull that paint up into the brush off the paper. So sometimes if you overdo an area, like I think you saw previously, I did a little bit of her lips and I just pulled a little of that red right off. And that's a little trick you can learn. You can do that quite a bit on 140-pound paper. Like I said, if you do it too much, you'll really rag the paper out. Literally, it just gets kind of raggy, looks like a washcloth after a while and falls apart. Just a side note there. Anyway, let's continue drawing him and playing with him. I think we're going to start drawing on his hat now. That is probably a little cobalt with some ultramarine, and I'm using a Payne's gray, which is almost a black but not quite a black, for shadowing. There might be a little violet in there as well, and I'll just let you guys enjoy watching and learning. Thank you so much. By the way, I'm learning as much as you guys each time I do this. Every time I do one, I learn something new. So there are no surprises. Well, actually, there's a lot of surprises for me. So it's just dive in, get it done, learn something, play with it, enjoy it, and let the process take its course. Have a good day. So at this point, I'm pretty happy with the flesh tones on him and the 5 o'clock shadow. and the shadowing of the hat. I believe later in the end of this I kind of go in and do a little darkness on the underside of the hat as well and kind of hit the shadows again. But right now I'm working on a shirt, and I'm using a brighter blue. This is a bright blue. This is a lot of fun. I like it a lot. It kind of really brightens things up. And so we're playing with the shirt with bright blue and then an ultramarine. And then we would get the young lady's clothes on. I think I used a pink on her in this one. So there we go. We're finishing it up. We're down to the final details. We're coming to the end of this. And like I said, the very end of this, I will probably hit the shadows darker one more time. Kind of work a little bit around the glasses, things like that. Maybe use a violet for some more shadows and such. So here we go. So there you have it, a little memory from one of their vacations as a young couple, and I think that looks pretty nice. I am pleased. Thank you. Visit tietheartguy.com.